Well, hello, YWAM Chiang Rai family. I was just thinking about Pentecost because Liz Lumpkus was talking about Pentecost just the other day on her video. So make sure if you haven't seen her video yet, check it out, probably maybe after you see this one. Acts 2, of course, comes to mind, and I start thinking about how the Holy Spirit was poured out on those disciples, and there was the sound of the mighty rushing wind. There was the tongues of fire. This was a profound thing that happened to them, and the presence of God was so increased that they're stumbling around under the weight of the glory of God. And so for years, I have to admit that I've had this ache inside of me, maybe an ache that's inside of you as well, to experience God in this very miraculous and profound way. I love the testimonies of how God touches people's lives. In the 1800s, the presence of God was so strong on Charles Finney. Sometimes he would, just by standing in a room, the presence of the Spirit would be so strong on him that people in the room would start to feel the presence of God and just start repenting without him saying more than a word. He might not even have to say anything at all. But that started from something. When he got saved, he also had this filling of the Spirit. And he writes this, he says, I could feel the impression like a wave of electricity going through and through me. Indeed, it seemed to come in waves of liquid love, for I could not express it in any other way. He says, I immediately found myself endued with such power from on high that a few words dropped here and there to individuals were the means of their immediate conversion. Another revivalist that I love to read about is D.L. Moody, who's around a similar time as Finney. He said his heart was just kind of not into it so much, and he wanted to have a touch from God. He was crying out for God to fill him. He describes it this way: it is almost too sacred an experience to name. I can only say that God revealed himself to me, and I had such an experience of his love that I had to ask him to stay his hand. I went to preaching again. The sermons were not different. I did not present any new truths, and yet hundreds were converted. I would not now be placed back where I was before that blessed experience if you should give me all the world. I think, Lord, I ache for that kind of an experience with your love, right? So powerful that I have to ask you to stop. I just can't take it anymore. How about for you? Would you like to have it so impacting your soul, your spirit, your body that you have to say, stop, I can't take anymore? Maria Woodworth Etter is another one like that. She came a little bit past Finney and Moody's time. Thousands came to Christ during her ministry. She was most famous, though, for the way that the power of God was released and hit people who were in their meetings. And she said this one time. She said they would collapse on the floor as if they'd been shot or had died. And they might lay there in what was known for her meetings as trances for perhaps hours at a time. But again, like Finney, like Moody, this didn't just come from nowhere. This came out of her relationship with God. She was finally baptized in the Holy Spirit. She says, it felt like liquid fire, and there were angels all around. And this was the beginning of power being released through her. Here's my invitation to you. If you just want to give voice to an ache in you like I have this ache in me for wanting an overwhelming, life-transforming encounter with the Holy Spirit, after we're through, just put that ache in the comments below, and we can bring our corporate ache to God. We can pray for each other. Bless you guys. Let me know if anything happens to you. I'll let you know if anything happens to me.